everyone, welcome to Grade Up's MBA Prep channel. So today we are starting one series for MAHCET CET and we'll be solving questions for it. Right, so we are starting with logical reasoning and this is the first video of the series in which we shall discuss a couple of sets on logical reasoning. Okay, so good evening everyone, welcome to the session. And in this series we are going to solve sets on logical reasoning. Okay, so you know that in logical reasoning what happens is you have 75 questions, right? 75 questions, and out of these 75, so if you talk about MH-CET, this exam structure, so if you talk about the structure of CET, you have LR consists of 75 questions, right? And most of the questions in MH-CET are in this section are from puzzles, right? So around 40 out of these 75, 40 questions are of puzzles. So let us practice a couple of puzzles in today's class, right? Okay, so 40 questions are on puzzles. So let us now solve some questions on puzzles. Okay, so in today's class we'll solve some questions on puzzles and see that how they are done. Okay, so CET, I mean, it is very important to solve puzzles because most of the questions in this are from puzzles, and they constitute a good number of questions, 40 out of 75. Okay, so now let's see, let us solve some questions. Okay, let's start with the first set. So we are going to have an all India mock test on 19th June to 21st June. So you can take this mock test by enrolling on it for free. Okay. So let's start with the first set. Okay, so this is the first set. Let's solve this set and we'll see that. So it says that there are 5 players and they have different heights and different weights. Okay, so certain things are given about these players. Their heights and weights are mentioned in this, right? So you have to arrange these people on the basis of their heights and their weight. So 5 players A, B, C, D, E, and they have different heights, they have different weights. Okay, and you have to arrange these people on the basis of their heights and weights. Okay, so it says that the 2 players and they are standing in height wise, so from lower height to higher height they are standing in that order, and certain things are given about their weight also there. So like you have in yours, like when generally you have school assembly lines, right? Height wise, shorter person standing in front, then the taller person, like that. So they are standing height wise, and certain instructions are given about them. So let us find their heights and weights and solve the questions. Okay, so let's solve this question, arranging these peoples in the order of their heights. Right, so 5 people, let us call them in the order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, low to high, right? We can call low to high, and height and weight. So they are standing on the order according to their height. So you do not have to worry about the order. You just have to find the order of their weights from these statements. Okay. So what does it say? It says that two players are on either side of Ashu, on either sides of Ashu were heavier than him, right? So whosoever is standing ahead of Ashu and behind Ashu are both heavier than him. Okay. Then we are given that Charles is heavier than each of Bhanu and Ehsan. So when we talk about weight, so Charles is heavier than Bhanu and Ishan. Okay, the heaviest of the players stand behind exactly two players, right? So the heaviest person, right, is standing on third position. Okay, so this person is the same person here. Okay, and the tallest person was the lightest among the five players. Okay, so let us say, like let's mark these with different colors so that we can identify them, right? So this person is the same. Okay, and Ehsan was the second person standing ahead of Daman, right? So if Daman is standing at position, right? So if Daman is standing at a position, Ehsan is two places ahead of Daman. Okay. So anyone done with the arrangement? Aniket is done. What about others? Descending order of height. Okay, B C D A E. Okay, so see this. So it says that Ehsan was the second person ahead of Daman. So Ehsan cannot be in these two positions, right? So these two cannot be Ehsan. Ehsan has to be first among the first three, right? So he's two ahead of Daman. So he cannot be in the last two positions. So he will be in the top three when it comes to height. Okay. Now, and it is said that Charles is heavier than uh, and the heaviest of the person is standing behind exactly two players, right? So it means that Ehsan, so the heaviest of the players is behind this, right? And Charles is heavier than Bhanu and Ishan. So Ishan cannot be the heaviest, right? Ishan is not the heaviest. So if Ishan is not the heaviest, Ishan cannot be on the third position also, right? So Ishan will be either first or Ishan will be second. Okay. Clear? So now what we are given that, so Ishan can be second or fourth, right? And then the heaviest of the players stand behind exactly two players. Okay, so this, now see this. Now this cannot be, see, Ehsan is 2 ahead of Daman, right? Ehsan is 2 ahead of Daman, right? So if Ehsan is 2 ahead of Daman, that means if Ehsan is here, Daman will be here, right? If Ehsan, suppose it is the, Ehsan has the lowest height, so this will be Daman, right? If this will be Daman, that means this will be Daman, right? Daman will be the heaviest. But when it says Charles is heavier than both, it is Bhanu, right? It can be Bhanu. That is not the correct assumption. Ashu has heavier persons around him, right? So Ashu cannot be the fourth one. Ehsan is ahead of Daman, right? Ehsan is ahead of Daman, so that is, we have taken correct, right? If I put now, let us make two cases, right? Let's take two cases, and then probably that we will able to find out, right? So let's take two cases, Ehsan and Daman, right? So if I take Ehsan and Daman, I can take like this, and I can take Ehsan and Daman second and fourth also, right? So now what is given to us is that, right? So this, in this case, Daman will be the last person here, right? And so in this case, now in this case, what will happen? See, Ashu has, so two players on either sides of Ashu were heavier than him, right? So it means that, right? It means that if I take Ashu here, right? In this case, if I take this case, now this is the heaviest person, right? So Ashu cannot be the heaviest, right? So Ashu cannot come here, Ashu cannot come here. So Ashu has to be in central position, right? So this case gets eliminated. So that means Ashu will be here or here, right? So Ehsan and Daman we have fixed. Okay, so Daman is the heaviest and standing third in the position. Okay, so we get this position, and Charles is heavier than each of Bhanu and Ishan. Okay. Now let us find the position for Ashu. We cannot have Ashu here because this is the lightest person, right? So we will have Ashu here, right? So Ashu will come here, and then Charles is, we are not getting the lightest person. So lightest person cannot be this, right? This is the lightest person, which cannot be Charles. So it will be this order, right? So we will get this order. So that means now this is Bhanu, this is Daman, right? And Charles is heavier than Bhanu and Ishan, right? And tallest is the lightest. Ashu, so both are E and D are heavier than Ashu, right? So Ashu will be Ashu cannot be here, so Ashu will be either here or here, right? And then we have Charles is heavier than each of Bhanu and Ishan. So Ishan has to be heavier than, so when we talk about Ishan, right? So Ishan is heavier than Ashu, right? And Charles is heavier than Ishan, right? So we will have Charles, Ishan, and Ashu. So this is the arrangement that we will get. Is it clear? Are you getting this arrangement? Height wise, they are in this order, and weight wise, they are in this order. Okay, this is the lowest, this is the highest. Right? Are you getting the same order? So for what we did was we marked these players. So the person who is third, right? Like the heaviest person is third, and the tallest person is the lightest, right? So we marked these two people. Then what we did, we used this condition that Ishan was the second player, second person standing ahead of Daman. So Ishan will be two places ahead of Daman. Now Ishan cannot be in the last two positions, right? So Ishan has to be in the top three positions. But if Ishan is here, right, and Charles is heavier than Ishan, right? So Ishan cannot be the heaviest. So Ishan will be in these two. Now we took two cases, right, putting Ishan in this position and in this position, right? So if we put Ishan and Daman here, we cannot place Ashu because Ashu cannot be the heaviest, right? So both of them have to be on the either side. Okay, right? So we get this, and then we'll take this case, we'll put Ashu here, and then when we talk about weight, so we get these two weights from these two relations, right? Bhanu and Daman, right? Now we have to place three people. Now it is said that Charles is heavier than Ishan. So Charles is heavier than Ishan, and Ashu has to be lighter than Ishan because the persons who are ahead and behind Ashu are heavier than him. So we got this order and we made this arrangement. Okay. All right. Who was the lightest player in the weight? So lightest player is Bhanu. Okay. All right. How many players are standing between Ashu and Daman? How many players are standing between Ashu and Daman? So Ashu and Daman, they are standing consecutively, right? They are in consecutive heights, so no person is standing between them. All right. How many players have same ranking in both the parameters? So we have Ashu and Charles, both have the same ranking in both the parameters. Which of the following statements is or are true? So read the statements and tell which of the following are true. So which of the following statements are true? Just go through the statements and tell which of the following are true. So first says Charles is heavier than exactly three players. This is Charles. He's heavier than three players, right? That is true. Okay. Now this cannot be the answer. This cannot be the answer, right? So let us check second statement, right? Because if second is true, then the answer will be this. I will not have to check the third statement, right? Ashu was standing just ahead of Bhanu, right? So Ashu was standing just ahead of Bhanu. That is incorrect, right? So it means that this is not the answer. Let us check the third one. The player who was heavier than exactly two players was standing just ahead of Charles. Heavier than two players. So that is Ehsan. So it is saying that Ehsan was standing just ahead of Charles, which is false. Okay, so only one is true. Out of these three, only one is true. Okay, all right. Let's now do the next set. Okay, that is on floor, right? So it's a floor puzzle, somewhat different, not the typical like arrangement of all people. So it says that there are five boys. They live in a ground plus 10 storied building, right? So there are 10 floors on it, and there's a ground floor where they have the lift, right? So none of them lives on the ground floor, so they live on floors, right? 1 to 10. Okay, and what is given to you that what when they enter, right? I mean, they press two buttons, right? So press buttons of two floors. So there are 10 floors and 5 persons, they press button of two floors each. Okay. And it is given, some information is given to you, right? So try to fill it. I mean, it will take some time to do it, right? It will take some like 5-7 minutes. Take that time to fill that, and then we'll discuss it. Okay, so we'll discuss a couple of sets in each of these sessions, right? So we'll have the series, and like we'll discuss different sections. Okay, how much can we improve in CET score from now on? So Abhinav, that depends on you, right? Like how much practice you do, how much efforts you put, and are you analyzing your mock test, right? Or you just simply writing mock test, or going through the mock test and seeing that what mistakes you are making, and improving on them, right? If you're like with each mock you are changing, I mean you are improving your strategy, that how to solve questions, which questions to target first. So yeah, so that depends on person to person, right? So you understood this problem. It says that there is a 10-story building, right? 10-story plus ground floor. In the ground floor, you have the lift, and you press five people. They press they press lift button of they press button of two floors each, right? So that is why they press 10 floors, and one thing is given, that none of them presses the button of his own floor. Okay, so let's say a person X lives in floor 5. He will not press the button of fifth floor, he will press some other floor. Right, so try to find it out. And if you enjoy these classes, please don't forget to like the session, right? And subscribe to our channel for MBA preparation. Okay, so there are five people, A, B, C, D, E. What you need to find out? You need to find the floor on which they live, right? And the button that they press. So they press different button from the floor that they live on. Okay. So which statement shall we start from? It, how will you identify anything? They have not given anything about anyone, right? Which statement shall you use to start? So they have given certain interesting things, right? They have not given the floor number where they live, right? For none of the persons they have given the floor number, but they have given certain things that C is above A but below D. So D is greater than C, greater than A, and also E lives below D but above B, right? So it means that D is at the highest floor among them, right? D must be at the highest floor among them, right? We do not know which floor. Not necessarily D is on 10th floor. He can be on 9, 8, anything. But he is in the topmost floor among them. Okay, right? So second statement says that exactly two floors between B and A, exactly one floor between C and D. Okay, that we'll use later. Right now, the third statement says is an interesting thing which gives about the numbers. Right, it says the floor numbers pressed by B are perfect square numbers. So what are the perfect square numbers from 1 to 10? You have 1, 4, and 9. So he would have pressed any two numbers out of these three. Okay. Now, one interesting fact is A press the button for C's floor. So A will press the button for C. B presses the button for D. D presses the button for E. No, C for E, right? And then we have D for A and E for B. So this is how they press the buttons, right? This is valuable information. Okay. Okay, some difference. A press consecutive, right? Read the last statement. It says B press the buttons for floors that are above the floor where he lives. Okay, so what do you get from this? That B press the buttons above his floor. So which buttons will B press? Now look at the third statement and the eighth statement. Third statement says B pressed square, perfect square. So perfect squares are 1, 4 and 9. Okay, these are the perfect squares. So B pressed 1, 4 or 9. Now it is saying B press the buttons that are above the floor where he lives. So B cannot press 1, right? Even if B lives on floor number 1, he cannot press that, right? So B pressed 4 and 9. Okay, B pressed the buttons 4 and 9. So B will be living below 4th floor, right? So B is less than 4. Now see this thing. One thing that is given to you is that D is above all these people, right? D has to be 4 or 9. Which will be D? What will be D's floor? 4 or 9 out of these? It is said that B pressed D's floor. So D must be on 4 or on 9. Now see, D is above 1, 2, 3, 4. So D is on any of these. D is above all these 4 people, right? So D is on 9th floor. He cannot be on 4th floor, right? How can you say B lives on 1st floor? Where did you get that information? B lives on 1st floor. Okay, so D is 9. Why? Because D cannot be on 4 because D is higher floor than at least 4 people. So he will be at least 5, right? Or more than that. So that is why D will be 9. Okay. Now, what else do we have? Now let us take these information that 2 floors between the floors of B and A, right? 2 floors between the floors of B and A. So we are left with some cases for B and A because B is below 4. We know that B is less than 4, right? B press the buttons that are above the floor. So B is less than floor. So B could be 1, 2 or 3. Clear? So if B is 1, what will happen? If B is 1, what will be A? There are 2 floors between B and A, right? So that means 2, 3, A will be 4, 5, A will be 6. Is that clear? So if B is on 1st floor, A will be 4th, right? B is on 2nd, A will be 5, B is on 3rd, right? A will be 6. Okay. Then they have given that there is 1 floor between C and E also. Okay. So let us first try to get these statements. Now suppose let us consider this case, right? 1 and 4. Now what will happen? 1 and 4. Can A live on fourth floor? Can A be on fourth floor? Can someone tell yes or no? If yes, then why? I mean, if no, then why not? Can A be on fourth floor? Why yes or why no? Give the reason also. Why yes or no? And one more statement says that one floor between C and E, right? And where none of the five stay, right? So C, E will be, yes, B pressed D's number, right? So who pressed A's numbers? A's number was pressed by D, right? So if A lives on 4, then B pressed A's floor, right? It is given that B pressed D's floor, D pressed A's floor. So A cannot be on 4 because B pressed only D's floor, right? So A cannot be on 4. Correct. Now, now we have to place C and E also, right? So there is one floor between C and E where none of the five stay. So you cannot have till 5, right? You can have 6 and 8, right? 7, 9 you cannot have, right? 7, 9 you cannot have because 9 is D. You cannot have 8 and 10 because 9 is already D, right? So you have only one possibility. Now if you have 6 and 3, you cannot have 7, 9 because 9 is D. You cannot have 8 and 10 because 9 is D, right? So it is said that there is one floor between C and E where none of the five stay, right? So D cannot, so no one can say have a floor between them, right? So this is also not possible. So we have just one case possible, right? Now C and E, I'm putting slash, we do not know where is C, where is E. Okay, so what do we get? B is on second floor, A is on fifth floor. Who pressed A's button? A's button was pressed by D. So D pressed 5. Who pressed B's button? E pressed B's button. So E pressed 2. Okay. Now what is left with us? What else can we fill from this? Now we do not know the floor of C and E, right? So let us see what all statements we have used. We have got this statement, right? Yeah, we do not know this statement, right? We are yet to use it partially. No, we have used C lives above A. That is done, right? So this has been used. Okay, this has been used. This has been used. I mean, we will fill it, right? So now let us see this. The difference between the floor numbers pressed by E. This fifth point. Read this fifth point, which says that the difference between the floor numbers pressed by E is the floor number of C. Okay, the difference between the floor numbers pressed by E is the floor number of C. Suppose C lives on 6th floor, right? Suppose let us say C lives on 6th floor. So what is the difference between the floor numbers is 6. So E will press 8 and E lives on 8 also, right? Now this is not possible because that person did not press his own floor number, right? If I put C6 and E8, we cannot have this because E will press his own floor number. So that means C is 8. If C is 8, that means this floor, the difference is 8. So E pressed floor number 10. And this will be 6. Okay. Now who pressed E's number? That is C. So C pressed 6 and who pressed C's number? A. A pressed 8. Okay, A pressed 8. Now what else? Now we'll use this. We have used this statement. Now let us see seventh. It says A pressed consecutive floor numbers. So consecutive means one after the other. So he cannot press 8 and 9. He must have pressed 8 and 7. Okay, he pressed 8 and 7. Okay, that is also done. Now which are the floors left? 1 is left, 3 is left. Okay, 1 and 3 is left, and there is one statement which says the difference between the floor numbers pressed by D is a perfect square number. So it must be 5 and 1, because 5 and 3 the difference is 2, which is not perfect square. So D pressed 1 and C pressed 3. Okay, so this is the final arrangement that we will get. Did you get this arrangement? Are you getting this arrangement? Right? Okay, so I'll explain this part again, how we did C and E. Right? So A and B we took this A and B we took 1 4, or like if we take 1 and 4, that is not possible because B has already plus 4, right? So now we can take 2 5 3 6. Now there is one floor between C and E where none of the following stays, right? So if I take 2 and 5, now C in E could be 6 8, 7 9, 8 10, right? C and E, one floor, one gap, one floor gap. Now 7 9 is not possible because D is on 9. Now if I put 8 and 10, it is saying that there is one floor between C and E where none of these people stay, right? So in this case D is in between them, so 8 and 10 is not possible, right? Now if you take 3 and 6, so 7 and 9, 8 and 10 I am getting, so these are not possible. So that only possibility is 6 and 8, right? So 6 and 8 are possible. Then we took, let us assign 6 here and 8 here. From that condition, from this condition 5, we get the final position, the final order, that's 6 and 8. Okay, and then using the remaining conditions we fill the buttons. Okay, all right, so let's look at the questions from this. Who lives on a floor which is in between the floors whose buttons he pressed? Yeah, it involves like floor also plus uh, like different, slightly different variant, right? Not the one which we just arrange people, right? So who lives on a floor which is in between the floors whose buttons he pressed, right? So if you see that E is the only person that lives between the floors that he pressed, right? Otherwise a person lives above or below the floors. Okay, so E is the only such person. Okay, and next question. Who lives on the 8th floor? Right, so C lives on the 8th floor. Who pressed the button for the first floor? So first floor button was pressed by D, right? D pressed the button for first floor. Okay. Who lives on the 4th floor? The 4th floor is vacant, right? So we have people living in 2, 5, 6, 8, 9. So 4th floor, the floor is vacant. So none of these persons live on the 4th floor. Okay. All right. Let's look at the next question. Which of these is not a vacant floor? Which of these is not a vacant floor? So 2, 3, 4, 7, 10, right? So 2 is not a vacant floor, others are all vacant. 3, 4, 7 and 10 are vacant floors. Okay, all right, next question. What is the maximum sum of the floor numbers pressed by a person? So see from it and answer it at least. So maximum sum is 7 and 8, 15, right? That is the highest that you are getting for any of the floors. Okay. So this was something which was difficult, right? Right, not a typical one, but yes, you know that IBPS, right? It can ask you some difficult puzzles as well, right? So not necessarily that it will be always easy, right? So sometimes you might get a difficult puzzle also. Okay. So right now we have these courses on our platform, right, for CAT and other MBA entrance examinations. And these are our faculty members. I'm sure you must have uh, learned from them on YouTube and GradeUp app. Okay, so if you enjoyed this session, don't forget to like the session. Right, we'll have more such sessions, right, wherein we'll solve a few logical reasoning sets, and for other sections also we shall have sessions, and so that you prepare for Maharashtra CET. Okay. Yeah, so it depends on your like, see, you have to pick sets, right? So you cannot go on solving. So there are 7 puzzles. There are generally 7 puzzles constituting of 40 questions. So you have to choose, right? You have to choose among those 7, right? You decide that, okay, this is going to be a lengthy one. Should I pick or not, right? So that is it. Like there will be some easy ones as well. And apart from puzzles, also you have other questions, right? Maybe you are not good with, let's say, there are questions on critical reasoning. If you are not good with critical reasoning, so maybe you will solve puzzles instead, or if you are not good with puzzles, maybe you can solve some other topics. So that depends on person to person, right? So out of 7, target at least 4 to 5 puzzles at least, right? And even more than that. So that depends on how much are you targeting in the examination, because in let's say in quant, okay, you can score high. In verbal, you do not have any assurity, right? You cannot guarantee your accuracy in verbal, right? Even the best students, they cannot tell that whether they'll be able to score 45 plus in verbal. Okay. Then in abstract reasoning, it takes time, right? So reasoning is the only section wherein you can maximize your score, because you have certainty also. If you have solved it, you know that this answer is right or wrong. So yes, do practice puzzles, and try to minimize your time during the examination so that you can score as high as possible in this section. All right, so that's it for today's class. I hope you enjoyed the sets, right? Especially the second one, right? And please, like, if you were unable to solve it, right, you can just pause the video and later on solve it at your own pace later, and see the solution later on. Okay. So thank you for watching this video. Have a great day ahead. Good night.